Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wishbone Football. I am Chad, and welcome into episode 1.10, College Roundup, episode 10. Over the last, I'll say, month, we've really been diving deep into the lead up to the NFL draft and ultimately the placement of who got drafted, who went where. So I really wanted to dive back into some college things that have been going on over the last 6 weeks or a month. Um, really felt like it was time to get back into that. So, first thing I want to get into here is an update with respect to NIL deals. We know that the College Sports Commission releases a update on a monthly basis with respect to NIL deals and the NIL Go application website portal that everyone is using currently. So as of April the 30th, we have a total amount of 26,556 deals that have a total value of just over $242 million. What that looks like is an average deal of $9,112 per. Not bad, right? However, if we jump back to the March update, we knew that there was a lot of money that was not cleared. And so, with respect to the number of deals that have not been cleared, we have now a new amount of 1,153 deals with a total value of just over $56 million. And again, shockingly enough, what this amounts to is about $48,000 per deal. So we know these are much higher, much more lucrative NIL deals. Also, there are a total of 21 deals in arbitration as of the end of April. And the CSE College Sports Commission cleared over 5,500 deals worth a total of $75 million, which is nearly double the amount cleared in the previous 2-month period. 442 deals with a total value of $26 million were not cleared. And since the NIL Go platform launched in 2011, in June 11th, 2025, through April 30th, 2026, 26,000 deals went through, as we know, with a total value of over $242 million. And I knew, jumping back to when I had provided the update from the March numbers, I knew that that was going to get bigger because this is when you start to get football ramping up with respect to the upcoming 2026 season. We simply knew that it was going to be a lot more deals, a lot more things were going through, and ultimately it was going to be a lot more lucrative. I will say. Now, the next thing I wanted to get into was the SEC win totals. I'd come across I had come across a graphic back in, I think it was early March, with respect to the win totals that have come out for the SEC after the schedule was ultimately released last month. So let's jump into that. The two at the bottom in the SEC, I can't really say shocks me at all. University of Kentucky, and we have Mississippi State, both at 4.5 wins. When we look at what that looks like for those teams, University of Louisiana at Monroe is at Mississippi State week 1, and Kentucky is hosting Youngstown State. So really, that's nothing that really shocks me, but I'm going to go through it on a team-by-team basis and do a proper breakdown of each. So the 2026 Mississippi State schedule is as follow. Like week 1, like I said, University of Louisiana at Monroe, ULM Warhawks. Week 1, week 2 is at Minnesota Golden Gophers. Week 3 at the Gamecocks. 4, Missouri Tigers. 5, hosting Alabama. Their bye week comes Saturday, October the 10th. But then we go through a real tough schedule. Here we go. At LSU, hosting the Sooners. At the Longhorns, hosting Vanderbilt. Hosting Auburn. Then we host Tennessee Tech, Golden Eagles, at Ole Miss to round up the last bit of the schedule. It is listed as the SEC Championship Saturday, December 5th, as we all know, but I don't believe it will be Mississippi at the SEC Championship this year. The second team, University of Kentucky, we start off with hosting Youngstown State. Week 2 is hosting Alabama. Week 3 is at Texas A&M. Week 4 is hosting South Alabama. Week 5 is at the Gamecocks. Week 6 is hosting LSU. Week 7 is at Oklahoma. Week 8 is hosting Vanderbilt. Week 9 is their bye week. And then the latter half of the schedule, at Tennessee, hosting Florida, at Missouri, hosting Louisville. And honestly, when I'm looking at this, with Kentucky in mind, realistically, I will probably pencil them in for maybe 5 wins. I've got them beating Youngstown. They probably should beat South Alabama, but I don't want to say that for sure. Vanderbilt will probably be a good game, but I ultimately see Vanderbilt winning that. And maybe there is something to be said with Missouri. So I honestly will give Kentucky an overall win total of 3: Youngstown State, South Alabama, and I'll go Missouri. But that's it. I don't see anything more. Even the South Alabama game doesn't really sit well with me. Now, let me go back to Mississippi State, and I will give you what I have for them in the way of total wins. So, Mississippi State opens ULM, and Tennessee Tech. I will give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they will win 2 of their. I will say that they are a 2-win team this year. ULM, Minnesota. I don't see them beating Minnesota, and I think it is a clean sweep in the in the conference schedule within the SEC. So I will give Minnesota 2. Now, number 3 on our list here for win totals is Arkansas. Arkansas currently is sitting at 5.5 wins. So let's see if we can find those wins for us here. So week 1, North Alabama Lions, I will chalk that up to a win. They are hosting that at DWR. The week 2 is at Utah Utes. 3 is Georgia Bulldogs. 4, Tulsa Golden Hurricane. 5 is Texas A&M. 6 is Tennessee. 7 is at Vanderbilt. Then they have their week off. Then we go Missouri at Auburn, home for the Gamecocks, at Texas Longhorns, and then we wrap it up with LSU. Honestly, looking at the schedule, I have Arkansas as a 3-win team, maybe 4. So I'm going to say Utah, North Alabama, Tulsa are wins. And then I'm going to say 2 toss-ups will be Vanderbilt and Missouri. I'll give them the benefit of one of them, not both. So I will ultimately call Arkansas this year for 2026 a 4-win team. Now, the issue that I have with Arkansas is they are sort of getting pummeled with transfers leaving. And I mean, it's not really their fault, but this just seems like a year that they need to figure things out for 2027, not necessarily concentrate on winning in 2026. So moving on, our next team is South Carolina Gamecocks. And We have them slotted at a 5.5 win team. So let's see what we can find here. So their two non-conference teams are Kent State and Towson Tigers, both at home, which is good. I will chalk both of those up to a win. Week 3, they are playing Mississippi State. That will be a win. Alabama, I will call that a coin toss currently. Kentucky, hosting Kentucky, I will say that is a win. At Florida, toss up. At Tennessee, at home versus Tennessee, toss up. Their week off is October the 17th. And then we go Sooners, A&M, Arkansas, Georgia, Clemson. A bit of a gauntlet there. Tennessee, Oklahoma, Aggies. I will put the Volunteer game up as a toss-up. I expect them to beat Arkansas, and honestly, unless Clemson looks as good as they do, by the time we get around to that game, Saturday, November 28th, I don't expect Clemson to really be on the lookout. I could see a sneaky good South Carolina team going in and beating Clemson in the final week of the year. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to give the Tennessee game a win, but at Florida a loss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So South Carolina, I have you as a 7-win team this year. The next is Vanderbilt, 6.5. This seems a little high to me. This seems almost like a little Diego Pavia hangover. Because unless they have the easiest schedule in the SEC this year, which I'm quite certain they do not, I can't see them being a 6 or a 7-win team. But let's take a look. So their first 3 non-conference, Austin P Governors, Delaware Blue Hens, NC State. I will probably give them the edge in the first 2, but not NC State. I think NC State will be a loss. At Auburn, at Georgia, Ole Miss, Arkansas, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee. If I was counting 5 there, 5 wins, I'll go Mississippi State, Kentucky, Arkansas, Delaware, and then Austin P. That's my 5 wins for Vandy. And with them being priced at 6.5, I think you're getting good value in that under bet, because even if they do win one that they aren't supposed to, they still are going to be under that projected win total. So moving on, Auburn is also listed as 6.5. I really hope that we get a different Auburn team this year. They have been a team that you've wanted to see more out of them, and they just seem to continue to hit their heads over and over. They can be a very good program, but They just need to get out of their own way. So Auburn is, like I said, listed as 6.5. I've actually, Auburn's number two, the second 6.5 team. We also have Florida, Tennessee, and Missouri listed as 6.5 as well. So let's get into Auburn's schedule here. Baylor, which will be the Aflac kickoff game at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. We know that already because that's going to be a 3:30 game on ABC. So Auburn versus Baylor, neutral site game. I honestly, I really hope that Auburn wins this game. This game makes or breaks your season because week 2, Southern Miss, and then you get right into the gauntlet of the SEC. You're hosting Florida Vanderbilt, on the road to Tennessee, bye week, at Georgia, hosting LSU, at Ole Miss, hosting Arkansas, at Mississippi State, and then ultimately hosting Samford, and then finishing the season, obviously, with the Iron Bowl. So what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will give them a 6-win team. Auburn. I'm not counting the Baylor game, but I'll go Southern Miss, Vanderbilt. I'm going to give them Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Samford. That's my 6-win team for Auburn this year. The next one is Tennessee, also listed at a 6.5. I haven't even taken a look at their schedule yet, but I can't. Tennessee is also always one of those teams where you expect you go into the season just with high expectations, and we will see if we're able to figure out 6, 7 or more wins ultimately for Tennessee. See if we can get them at an over. So week 1, they're hosting Furman. Week 2 is at Georgia Tech. Week 3 is hosting Kennesaw State. Week 4, hosting the Longhorns. 5 is Auburn. 6 is at Arkansas. 7 is hosting Alabama. That third week of October every year, third Saturday, at the Gamecocks. They are off the week of Halloween, and then we go Kentucky at Texas A&M, LSU at Vanderbilt. So let's kind of work backwards here. I'm going to say Vanderbilt will be a win, LSU will be a loss, Texas A&M will be a loss, but Kentucky will be a win. So two wins. South Carolina, I would like to think that Tennessee will win that game. Alabama will be a loss. At Arkansas, that should be a win. If things aren't going well for Auburn early, I can see them being, if Tennessee going into Auburn, Auburn going into Tennessee, that could be a loss. So how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to say 7. One loss that I do think can be a sneaky loss is Georgia Tech. We know what they were last year. They were a very good team, and I honestly think they've only gotten better. So I am going to peg Tennessee as a 7-win team. Next, we have Florida, again, also listed at 6.5 wins. And Florida really has the chance to be a very good team this year. I would not be looking past them at all. So hosting Florida Atlantic, hosting Campbell, at Auburn, hosting Ole Miss, at Missouri, hosting Gamecocks, at Texas. Off week is the October 24th. Then we go versus Georgia, which is a neutral site game, hosting Sooners, at Kentucky, hosting Vanderbilt, at Florida State, obviously. So Florida State, I think, is going to be a good team. I'm going to put that as a loss, but I'm going to give them the win of Vanderbilt, Kentucky, South Carolina, Missouri, Auburn, Campbell, Florida Atlantic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7-win Florida team this year. And I think that's fair. I'm kind of disregarding Oklahoma, Georgia, Texas as the top 3 plus Alabama. We'll get to Alabama, but like Florida Atlantic, Campbell, those should be wins. If Florida Atlantic comes out and beats Florida week 1, that Gainesville could be very upset very quickly. At Auburn, that should be a win. Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to be a sneaky one for me this year. I'm kind of putting them in the top half tier of the SEC. And Chambliss has a lot to do with that, but we'll get into that when we get to Ole Miss. The Missouri, I don't think, is going to be a good team this year. And South Carolina, yeah, they're always sort of good, but never really that good. Florida, yeah, we will put them as a 7-win team this year. Next, we have Missouri Tigers. 6.5 is the wins over under. So let's get into their schedule here. Missouri is always one team that, like, yes, they're in the SEC. You want them. They're always, I view them as one of the bigger underdogs in the SEC play, because you want to see them do well. They're a bit of a smaller school, and like, it's just one of those things. You always want them to see them do well. So we have them, UAPB Golden Lions at home. They are at Kansas for the border showdown. Then they are hosting Troy. And then conference play starts with at Mississippi, Florida, Texas A&M, Ole Miss. Off bye week, October the 24th, at Arkansas, Texas, at Georgia, Kentucky, and the Sooners. So working backwards, I'm going to give them a win with Kentucky, Arkansas, Florida, if they don't have their stuff together, at Mississippi, Troy. I'm going to call it a loss at the Jayhawks, and then ultimately a win with the Golden Lions. So, Missouri, I am giving you a 6-win schedule in 2026. Next, we have OU. OU, I am going to be kind of putting it in the upper tier of the SEC this year, simply because of Mateer returning. I think that's a big move for them, but their schedule is never going to be easy. But we know that it is the SEC. It just means more. So week 1, UTEP Miners. Week 2 at Michigan. Week 3 is hosting New Mexico, the Lobos. Week 4 at Georgia. They are off, and then they are at Red River in Dallas. They host Kentucky, at Mississippi State, South Carolina at home, at Florida, and then they host Ole Miss and Texas A&M, and then finishing off the season with at Missouri. So now we're getting into a team that does need a little bit more respect. I think Oklahoma is going to be very good this year, and that's tough for me to say as a Longhorn fan, but that's okay. I'm always trying to be at least a little bit subjective with respect to how I see them. So we're going to work backwards. At Missouri, that's a win. Texas A&M, I am going to give them a loss, and that's a coin toss for me. Both of those programs are very good, but I will give the edge to A&M. Ole Miss, I think, will be a win. I think that, you know what? I'll leave it. I'll leave it for when I'm on Ole Miss. So 2, at Florida Gators, a win. South Carolina is a win. Mississippi State is a win. Kentucky is a win. So I am going to purposely skip over the Red River. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. New Mexico will be a win. UTEP will be a win. And Michigan should be a win. Now that puts OU at 9. And there are 2 games that come in a 3-week span that Oklahoma better be ready for. And that's at Georgia, Saturday, September the 26th. They are off that week between, and then we have the Red River. I will say they get 1 out of the 2 of those games. I'm going to say that they beat Georgia but lose to Texas. But that still puts them at a 10-2 season. And you can't fault them for that. They are going to be probably a top 10 program this year, and you can't really fault them for losing one of those 2 games. Now, if you come out, you beat UTEP, Michigan, New Mexico, and then you go loss, Georgia and Texas, that's a little bit different. Then you're looking at making sure that you are beating everyone the rest of the way, which includes Ole Miss and Texas A&M back-to-back weeks, November 14th and November 21st. That's where things can get a little bit dicey, but I'm going to put OU at a 10-win school this year. And I think that they might end up being the top three for me at the end of the year for the SEC. So moving right along, next is Ole Miss. They are listed as the same as Oklahoma with 7.5 wins, but I don't see them in the same sphere as Oklahoma. And I'll get into why. So week 1, they are against Louisville, which is a neutral site game in Nashville. Then they play the Charlotte 49ers, LSU, at Florida. They are off the first Saturday in October. Then we go at Vanderbilt, Missouri, at Texas, Auburn, at Georgia, at Oklahoma, Wofford, and finally Mississippi State. The Ole Miss is going to have a good season, but I think they're just going to have a couple of teams stand in their way of playing in the SEC championship. They're going to beat Mississippi State. They're going to beat Wofford. Oklahoma, I will call a toss-up. I don't expect them to beat Georgia. I expect them to beat Auburn. They're more than likely going to lose to Texas. So how many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think 8 is a comfortable number for me. Louisville, Charlotte, Florida, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Auburn, Wofford, Mississippi State. I think I can feel comfortable about Ole Miss being an 8-win team. They're going to be good, probably knocking on the door of a CFP entrance, but I don't really want to say that for sure. I don't know if 8 wins in the SEC is going to get it done. I think it's going to be, I think you need to be a 9-win team this year, getting into the CFP. Next on our list is Alabama. Alabama is listed as a 8.5-win team for good reason. So let's run through theirs. East Carolina, at Kentucky, Florida State, South Carolina, at Mississippi, Georgia, at Tennessee, Texas A&M, off the week of Halloween, and then we finish out the season at LSU, at Vanderbilt, Chattanooga, Auburn, and the Iron Bowl. I'm going to give Alabama the win over Auburn, Chattanooga, Vanderbilt. I think the LSU game is going to be a loss. I'm going to give them a win over the Aggies and Tennessee, a loss to Georgia, but then a win at Mississippi, South Carolina, Florida State, Kentucky, East Carolina. I think Bama is a 10-win team at the end of the day. And I really only feel that their losses are going to be Georgia and LSU. I really don't think there is another loss there. Maybe the Aggies, but I think Alabama is knocking on the door of heading to the SEC championship again this year. LSU LSU. This is going to be a fun schedule to look at because it's Lane Kiffin, right? We're here. But we have meaningful football to talk about with Lane Kiffin, and not just who the hell he is doing yoga with, or how many co-eds does he have on his staff at LSU. And anyway, it's the one thing I will say that I really liked. Someone put out a fake flyer pretending to be the PR team at LSU and saying that he was going to be off social media to concentrate on football. And it made me laugh so hard. He can't do that. Lane Kiffin not on social media? Come on now. That's probably, he is helping not just football there, but probably for applications being submitted to LSU currently. So let's get into it. So they start off Clemson, Louisiana Tech, at Ole Miss, Texas A&M, McNeese, at Kentucky, Mississippi State, at Auburn, off the week of Halloween, Alabama, Texas, at Tennessee, at Arkansas. I believe they are a 10-win team without even getting into it right now, the way that I see it right now. Clemson, Louisiana Tech, Ole Miss wins. But let's talk about the coin flips. A&M, Alabama, Texas. Those are the only coin flips that I have for this LSU team, because I don't think Tennessee is still going to be hanging around in the 10th or the 10th week of the season. And yes, you're playing Texas A&M earlier than you want to, but honestly, get it out of the way. You've got a run of after A&M, McNeese, Kentucky, Mississippi, Auburn, and then a bye week. Like that is the core of LSU season. When they get things rolling, that's going to be when it is, because you have your off week, and then you go Alabama, Texas, Tennessee. Come on. Like, is there a harder 3-week schedule in all of college football this year? I'll wait. I'm waiting. LSU is hosting Alabama, hosting Texas, and then at Tennessee. And thankfully, 2 of those games are at home. If they were hosting, if they were going to Alabama or Texas, completely changes my view of their schedule. I am going to plug LSU in at a 10-win team, knowing that they are probably going to have 2 losses from a combination of A&M, Alabama, Texas. Now, they could win all 3, but I don't think so. I don't think this is 2019 LSU. I don't think this is Joe Burrow. We are going to beat everyone. Lane Kiffin has some pull, but not that much pull. Moving on. Next is Texas A&M. They are listed as 8.5 win season. So let's get into it here. Missouri State at home, Arizona State, Kentucky. That's a good start if you're Texas A&M. All 3 of those first games are at home. Then you go at LSU, Arkansas, at Missouri, Citadel, at Alabama. with their off week coming the week of Halloween. So right there, I will put them at a 2-loss team so far. But let's run through the rest. At South Carolina, Tennessee, at Sooners, finishing off with the Longhorns at home. This A&M team could be an 8-win team, or they could be an 11-win team. You think this really is a put up or shut up kind of a season for everyone at Texas A&M this year? Because I could see them losing to LSU, but I also could see their first loss of the season coming to Texas in the last week of the year. And that's how good they can be. So I am going to go out on a limb and say that A&M is an 11-win team this year in the SEC championship. And let's go find out who the other team they will be playing is. So now we have moved into 9.5-win teams. There's only 2 of them left in the SEC. And the next one is the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia goes Tennessee State, Western Kentucky, at Arkansas, home to the Sooners, home to Vanderbilt, at Bama, home to Auburn. Their off week is October the 24th. And then we go Florida at a neutral site, at Ole Miss, Missouri, at South Carolina, Georgia Tech. That's it. Do they have the easiest SEC schedule of the year? Because they're currently, the way that it sits right now, they are only playing 3 ranked opponents. Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma. Tennessee State, that's a win. Western Kentucky, win. Arkansas, win. Sooners, they should beat the Sooners. Vanderbilt, Auburn, Florida, Missouri, South Carolina, Georgia Tech. That's 10 wins right there. And then we've got 2 toss-ups, I will say. Maybe 3. So I'll pencil them in for a 9-win season. Actually, I should say I'll pen them in with a 9-win season right now. They're 3 toss-ups: Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss. They probably win 2 out of 3 of those, making them an 11-win season. And I would expect that they are, if they're going to lose 2, they're losing them to Oklahoma because they are their first real team in week 4, and Alabama. But if they beat the Sooners, I think their only loss is to Alabama week 6. So Georgia, I am putting them as my second 11-win team this season. And that only leaves us with 1 team left to talk about. And that is my Texas Longhorns. Hook 'em. The Texas Longhorns have decided to schedule, this is the second game of a home and home this year with Ohio State. And we all saw what happened last year with Texas falling flat against Ohio State. I'm not too embarrassed to admit it. They fell flat. This was a coming out party for Arch Manning, but he rallied and he had a better second half of the season. So let's run through their 2026 schedule. Texas State at home, Ohio State at home, UTSA at home. That is huge. You get 2 walks with UTSA and Texas State, but you get Ohio State in your building, 7:30 at night. You know that College Game Day is already going to DKR that day. That is a huge game. A huge game. At Tennessee, week 4. They are off week 5. Then they go to the Cotton Bowl for the Red River. Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, all 3 of those at home. That is big. Hosting Florida, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State all at home is a godsend. After playing a neutral site game with the Red River, all 3 of those are going to be wins for Texas. Then we go at Missouri, at LSU, Arkansas, and at A&M. I am going to call Texas right now a 10-win team, because we will talk about the really 3 toss-up games that they should have this year, maybe 4. It's because they keep scheduling themselves tough non-conference games with like Ohio State. So I'm going to say Texas State win, UTSA win, Volunteers win, Sooners win, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State win, Missouri win, Arkansas win. That is a 9-win school right there. The 3 games I am calling a coin toss: A&M, LSU, Ohio State. I do not think Texas loses against Ohio State in back-to-back years. I just don't see it. So I am going to give the edge to Texas in that game. And I am going to also have them beating LSU. But I am not going to have them beat A&M. And that pains me to say. But that gets Texas to an 11-win season, with their only loss coming to the Aggies. I think it is an immediate rematch a week later when Texas and Texas A&M play for the SEC championship. I'll let that settle for a second. Let you digest that. Texas and Texas A&M rematch a week later for the SEC championship. That's huge. That is absolutely huge. Now, let's move on. Let's move on to college betting penalties. Recently, we have seen with Brendan Sorsby that people just want to be betting on sports, whether it's your team or not, which is absolutely ridiculous. But back in October, the NCAA passed rules allowing on sports betting. And so let's get into that a little bit. If a player engages, this is coming from Nicole Auerbach, If a player engages in activities to influence the outcome of their own games or knowingly provides information to people in sports betting, that player will potentially face permanent loss of eligibility in all sports. That applies to players who wager on their own games or on other sports at their own school. That's huge. And that is where Brendan Sorsby sits currently. He wanted to bet on his own games to make it more exciting. Think about that. If a player wagers on their own sport at another school, the player could lose 50% of one season of eligibility. They must also receive education on sports wagering rules and prevention. For all other betting violations, such as pro sports, it will depend on a cumulative amount of money wagered. So we've got 4 bullet points here. $200 or less, only further education is required. $201 to $500, loss of 10% of a season plus further education. $501 to $800, loss of 30% of a season plus further education. And more than $800, NCAA reinstatement staff will consider whether further loss of eligibility is appropriate, including potentially permanent ineligibility. So think about that from a football point of view. So 10% of a season, what does that work out to? 2 games, 1.5 games. 30%, now you're 2.5 games. I mean, it's just simply not worth it. And when it comes to Brendan Sorsby, with him possibly being not allowed, I'll say, to play this year, it's going to be interesting. And it's definitely going to be something that we continue to monitor here over the next several months as we lead up into the season starting in late August. The next thing I wanted to talk about is 5-year eligibility. The D1 Board of Directors is currently working on a concept of a 5-year eligibility. Now, the note to this is that players who have exhausted eligibility this year under the current rules, even though those 4-year seniors, will not receive an additional 5th season. It will not be retroactive. So really, we're talking about this coming into effect in 2027, where you could have a 5-year eligibility. Now, the other rumor that I heard, and I mean, I don't want to call it a rumor because, like, I like to get my information on stuff like this right from Ross Dellinger of Yahoo. He just seems to be incredible at this and being on top of all of this. But we're looking at the future for things like this. It's not going to be instantaneously coming into effect this year. This is definitely something that will be 2027. And the other piece of the eligibility is they're looking at an age, and the age that they're kind of targeting is like, do you have a cap of, say, 25 years old, meaning that you are no longer able to play beyond your age of 25? And it's just something to sort of think about as we move through the eligibility piece. And finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about is the Big Ten. I really don't want to be a call to homer, so I need to throw some Big Ten news in here. And that is their revenue. And unless you've already seen it, it's shocking. So the Big Ten came out with an announcement on May the 1st that they are distributing a record $1.37 billion in revenue, or $72 million per school. So let me read the whole discharge, or the whole piece to you here. Big Ten Conference today announced a distribution of $1.37 billion to the conference's 18 member institutions for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, making the largest distribution in conference history. This represents an increase of $490 million when compared to the fiscal year ending 2024, during which the conference distributed $883 million. The distributions provide meaningful support to institutions in their continued effort to provide broad-based athletic opportunities to more than 14,000 Big Ten student athletes. The record disbursement reflects the first full year of the Big Ten's current broadcast media rights agreement, as well as the conference's success in the first year of the expanded college football playoff. It also marks the first year in which the conference was comprised of 18 world-class universities. I don't know if I agree with that. Following the additions of Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington in August 2024. Big Ten institutions have captured each of the last 3 college football playoff championships: Indiana in 26, Ohio State in 25, and Michigan in 24, and featured the most selections from any conference in the first round of the 2026 NFL Draft. Earlier this month, the conference became the first ever to have 3 different universities claim the football, women's basketball, and the men's basketball championships in one academic year. Since November, Big Ten schools have won NCAA titles in field hockey, men's soccer, wrestling, won men's water polo, women's ice hockey, and women's water polo. Collectively, the 18 members of the Big Ten Conference educate more than 817,000 students and conduct $19.6 billion in research each year. How are we feeling about that? $1.37 billion in revenue. And that's purely based on the new agreement, media rights deals that they have, which is absolutely incredible. Always something that we're going to be keeping an eye on is the money moving around, of course, when it comes to college football and the NFL inclusively. Now, I will get you out of here now on this. I am back on a weekly basis now. I can say that confidently. I have been having absolutely the worst technical issues. My microphone died, bought a second one. It was not compatible with my computer. I think it might be more user error than anything else, but that's neither here nor there. We are working, we are live, and I am excited to continue to bring this to you guys each week. So, without any further ado, really want to thank everyone for coming back, giving me another listen. We're up to episode 10, guys. This is exciting. So, again, thank you so much for giving me a listen, and this is Wishbone Football. Thank you.